We are live and we are reason, religiously educated atheists, secularists, and other non-theists. Welcome back to another amazing episode. Tonight, we're going to be discussing atheism and skepticism in music. And we have our guests, Greydon Square and Tombstone, the Deadman in the building. Okay, all right.
How's everybody doing?
Yeah. Peace, peace.
So you guys know it's Easter today. So happy pagan sex day or whatever it was before the Christians messed it up. You know, we could have been out there having free sex and whatnot, but no, we had to trade that off for the sexual repression of the church. Thanks, Obama. But we're gonna go ahead and get this thing started. So whichever one of you guys wants to go first, just kind of give us the backstory about yourself. I know you have some kind of recent project you'd like to tell us about making it. Maybe a little bit of how you came to atheism. Obviously not the long version because most of those stories are really long. So whoever would like to go first, you can go ahead, take it away.
Stone, you can go ahead if you want.
Okay, cool. Well, for me, how about we start with the atheist thing first? It was real simple. I grew up Pentecostal. I always had questions. When I asked those questions, many of the times, the adults would get a bit uncomfortable with it and never really gave me an answer. As I got older, I started questioning that religion itself specifically, and I left it alone and converted to Islam. So I was a Muslim for some years, but I still had questions. And once again, when I asked them, I kept getting these uncomfortable looks. So what I decided what I was going to do is, demand the same amount of evidence or proof from these clergy and people like them that I would for anybody else. And the moment I made up my mind to do that, I was pretty much out the door. I started my YouTube channel, I think it was like 2008. I was doing all right, but somebody tagged me to do a video where I showed some talent. And I've been doing music since I was 13. So I just did a song and it had an atheist theme to it. And the people liked it and it kind of went viral. And one thing led to another. And I think maybe 2 years after that, Greydon, we found out about each other and he hit me up to join Grand Unified. And we've been rolling ever since.
Yeah, man, that sounds about accurate. For me, I mean, if you want to take it all the way back to, just my origins as a thinker, I grew up in group homes, grew up in foster care in California, and I was basically influenced by a lot of the things that I was using as escapism to avoid the harsh reality of my situation. One of those things was science fiction. But I was also raised in the church. I was also raised among, different religions. One of the most primary ones was the Seventh-day Adventist. But there were some other ones in there as well. When I got a little bit older, I was in my 20s, had already went and came back from Iraq. I started going to school for physics, actually. And in that process of going to school for physics, what I was learning had basically challenged everything that I knew up to that point. And I'd always been interested in the sciences, physics, biology, chemistry, but I had never really pursued it as an educational goal or anything like that. When I started doing it, like Tombstone said, I had been writing music and been involved in songwriting since I was young, since I was 17 years old. And I have this problem where the things that I assimilate, the information that I digest has to come out in a creative way. So in reading and studying different concepts about cosmology and astronomy and those sort of fields, it started to come out in my music. So I started writing songs about that. And I was also dating a girl at the time who was a fundamentalist Christian for the most part. And one of the arguments that we got into ended up in a song that I recorded on YouTube. So kind of like Tombstone, one of my videos was shared with me rapping a song about me deconverting from Christianity to atheism, and that video was shared on Richard Dawkins' website. So in a sense, that went viral as well. And then joined the Rational Response Squad, left the Rational Response Squad, that sort of stuff. But that's kind of how it all got started for me, and how the atheism thing came up, and I got creative with it and stuff.
Very cool. So, like you said, Gray, then you were songwriting for quite a while and things of that nature before you even started becoming skeptical and coming out of religion and things of that nature. And like you said, you were trying to express yourself, what was going through your mind, and just kind of using that as a creative outlet. So it just kind of came naturally to you then to just transfer over into what you were kind of chewing on at that time. So how do you think that affected your music, or maybe your fan base, or did people who maybe were following you before that, did that maybe turn them away? Did you gain more of a following after that? How did people react when you started? Because that's not something that people typically put into any kind of music, especially like hip hop and things of that nature. So kind of how did your fan base react to that, or like what was the response overall?
Well, to be honest with you, I really didn't have a fan base before that. One of the things that I had even gotten known for was this particular video on YouTube. And before that, I really didn't have that many people interested in my music. I wasn't really separating myself from the pack in subject matter. I thought I was pretty skilled, but not as skilled as I believe I am now. But I don't think that would have put me over anyway. I think it had a lot to do with the fact that I was talking about something that was poorly and underrepresented in hip-hop. Essentially, we didn't have, within hip-hop, vocal atheists asking questions that, as a non-believer, you would ask in the very beginning. So for me, it was easy to take that information and turn it into music and turn it into stuff that I rapped about, because the other stuff that I was talking about was essentially the same stuff that other people was talking about. Not to say that my story wasn't unique in the way that I was telling it, but it wasn't as unique as talking about your deconversion and your deprogramming as you wrestle with your indoctrination that you've been dealing with your whole life. So I don't think that I really had a fan base before that. After that, yeah, people were interested in how I attacked issues, because I wasn't afraid of asking certain questions. I wasn't afraid of asking certain questions of certain groups. A lot of people like to ask questions of Christianity, but don't like to ask questions of Islam, or ask questions of Hinduism, or any other type of belief system out there. And I was a person, like a lot like Tombstone, where everything was on the table. And it didn't matter, what you believed. If it was irrational in the context of, you arguing that other people should believe it, if it was something persuasive, then I would challenge that directly. So that's kind of how it developed for me.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, because not only just even in kind of incorporating, questioning these things, this dogma and these religions, and just in skepticism into your music. It could be a lot of times really easy, like you say, to go after Christianity a lot, because that's something that you're raised in. That's the culture you're raised in if you live in the United States for the most part. So that's really awesome that you are able to take that skepticism and those questions. And obviously Tombstone, he has kind of some experience with Islam as well. So that's really cool that you guys are able to just take it beyond just Christianity, and also just beyond religion too, because you guys go on, beyond religion, you guys go out into science and skepticism and things of that nature, and you really bring it all in, which is really unique in your music. So that's pretty awesome. So Tombstone, how about yourself? Kind of, maybe give us the lowdown on how you got started in doing your thing. Were you involved in creating music before you became a skeptic, or was that something you really got into at that point? And then I guess, it's one thing to incorporate these kind of themes into your music, but do you ever worry that you're overdoing it? Do you try to incorporate other themes as well into your music instead of just focusing on that?
Oh, those are good questions. Basically for me, yeah, I've been doing music since I was like 13. Somebody dared me to write a rap, and I told them how hard could it be. So once I did it, and I was actually pretty good at it, I impressed the people that challenged me. And I liked that feeling, so I kept doing it. And over the years, I've had a little bit of local success because I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. So there was a while where I had a little small following locally, but nothing like it is now. Um, and of course, I've never been the type of artist that didn't feed off of subject matter. You have a lot of rappers, especially that are very braggadocious, talk about what they have. That's really never been me. I always had some sort of topic. So, whatever stage of life I was going through at the time, I would put it down in the music. And it just so happened that when I started that Rational Warrior channel, I started it specifically to speak about my feelings about the dangers of religion and the dangers that we have as a society when the populace isn't as skeptical or don't think as critically as they should. So it just seemed to be a natural fit for me when I was tagged to do a video showing what talent I had to rap about that. And that's kind of how, like Greydon was talking about, how my audience actually really blossomed and began because of that. But because, I have a lot of other interests. So because of that, I like comic books, I like video games, I like sci-fi, I like a lot of that stuff. And I tend to put a lot of that in my music as well. But the basis of most of my content, a lot of it, is really with skepticism as a whole. I always throw a shout out and give a song towards that because to me, it's bigger than just someone not believing that there are gods. Skepticism helps you in every single aspect of your life, dealing with politicians, dealing with as a consumer, going to these retail stores and getting products and services. Skepticism helps you in your relationships with people. It's one of those type of things where if you don't think critically, people will get over on you. Because it's something that Greydon said in one of his songs, Stockholm Syndrome, where he was saying that people were just they were just like basically the blind that were already deceived, being sent out to deceive others. I think the line was a conquered mind sent to conquer other minds, and that's exactly what it is. So my music deals with that, but it also deals with like I have I know there's one song series called Dark Matter where it's basically based on a comic book concept. I like to talk about things that's happened in my life, personally. You know what I mean? I like to talk about the music industry to a certain degree. So, I've never been just an atheist rapper. I'm just a rapper that happened to be atheist.
Yeah, very cool. It's interesting that you mentioned his song Stockholm Syndrome. I just a couple weeks ago I saw an image floating around on Facebook, and it was probably from some Christian like devotional or something, and basically it was saying, you should thank God for everything you have. Your life is a gift, and basically, if you are preserved from danger, if you have a little bit of health that you can enjoy, every hour of liberty you should thank God for. Your ability to hear, to speak, and think, thank God for. And it's like, to me, that was just reading exactly like Stockholm Syndrome. It's like, be thankful that this person that holds so much power over you is allowing you to have good things in your life and worship him and praise him, So it just really struck me. And, it's definitely something that is relevant and comes up as far in religion a lot when you look at that kind of relationship with, the gods that people worship. So I guess to move on here, so you mentioned your Rational Warrior channel. Was that something that you started kind of in tandem with your music? And what was kind of the thought behind that? And then just what do you use that channel for?
Well, basically, like I said, I started that channel specifically to touch on those issues because I actually had another YouTube channel before. They didn't talk about any of that stuff, but it was weighing heavily on my mind at the time because I was going through those ideological changes, and I needed to express it. I needed to talk about it. So I used the YouTube platform for that. I originally didn't have any intention on putting any music on that channel, but it has evolved since then. So yes, you'll still see me doing these rants every so often about my thoughts about certain things about religion or skepticism. But then too, you'll see me doing stuff about, I don't know, comic books. You may see me do a review of a video game. You might, because these are things that I'm interested in too. And I didn't want my channel to just stay stagnant, because the thing is, I think a lot of people had a perception of atheists that, especially the quote unquote new atheists, I hate that term, but I think they had this perception that that's all we do and that's all we are. No, I have a complete life. I have a family. I have other interests. I have a whole bunch of stuff, and I like for my audience to see all aspects of what I am, what I do, to understand it's a complete person here. It's not just some lone voice in the wilderness railing against Jesus or Muhammad or Buddha or Thor or whoever. It's not just that. And I think once people start to see that atheists are full people, we're not just that one box you're trying to put us in. I think that there'll be some people that will learn to be a bit more tolerant instead of trying to place us in this box of baby eater. You know what I mean?
Well, isn't that what it's really all about? I mean, we have so many studies that show that once you become friends with, or you really, not kind of intimately, but you kind of know someone or have a friendship with a homosexual person or an atheist, then your favorability rating of that group actually goes up.
Very true.
So it's pretty much what you're saying.
Absolutely, man. That's pretty much what it is. I think a lot of the intolerance comes from ignorance. If you don't know something about a particular group or demographic, it's real easy for someone else who has an axe to grind against that demographic to fill your head full of nonsense about them. And another reason why I speak up is because one thing I know is, if you allow a narrative about you to go unchallenged, it becomes the narrative, because you didn't challenge it, and people hear it enough, they think, oh, that must be the case. There's no altering view or counter view to it, so it has to be what we think it is. That's the reason atheists need to speak up, because I'm telling you, as far as like the funding for messages getting out there, no one has more funding than the people on the other side of this argument, because they have absolutely no rules when it comes to how they juice their people out of their money. Absolutely none. And with money is power. Money to push your message through billboards, through TV shows, through music, through politics, through whatever. So if we remain silent and allow them to frame a narrative about us and don't say anything back and don't have any kind of counter to that, the things that will happen after that will be nothing but demonization.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I would argue that's what's happening right now. I mean, for so long we were, silenced by the churches and the mosques and other religious leaders, and really that's what we're experiencing now, is that demonization that you're talking about. When we're finally actually speaking up, we have billboards now, we have TV shows, we have music, you guys, we have radio, we have all of this stuff now, and we're really being targeted by these mainstream Christian outlets. I don't know if you follow things like Right Wing Watch and stuff like that, but they've really been, in the past 2 or 3 years, just really just turning up on atheists. Brendan?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. He mentioned the term new atheist, and I'm not a fan of that either. It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, people like to use that to basically it's basically another term for anti-theists, or any atheists that are outspoken in any manner against religion, and they use it as a pejorative and to kind of demonize us, and it's really unfair. I mean, yeah, there's atheists that are jerks, that are assholes, that kind of obsess about it, but to just stereotype and overgeneralize like that, it just isn't fair at all. Because to me, silence is just complicit endorsement of whatever the other side is saying. So, like he's saying, if they're just gonna spin their narrative and we're not gonna be able to say anything against it, then that's gonna become reality as far as people are concerned. So, I gotta disagree with that. So yeah, I guess getting back to it, let's get Gray back in to the conversation here. So I just want to ask you, Graydon, about maybe anybody who you might look to as inspiration, other artists that you draw inspiration from, and that kind of influence what you do.
You know what's interesting, man, is I don't necessarily look towards a lot of artists for inspiration. I tend to look at a lot of other figures throughout history. I mean, I'm a big Isaac Asimov fan. I'm a big Stephen Baxter fan. Obviously, Carl Sagan has influenced me heavily. Michio Kaku, um, Arthur C. Clarke has a big influence on me. Gene Roddenberry. I mean, at the end of the day, I have said it once, and I'll keep saying it because I really want people to understand. If anything happens to me, this is how I felt. But I'm not really chasing Tupac. I'm chasing Carl Sagan. So when people ask me which artists have influenced me, I tend to not really respond well to that question because I don't really have inspirations musically like I used to. Because I feel like, and this is just me, my personal arrogance, I guess, is, I'm trying to walk the path from master to grandmaster in hip hop. So there aren't too many people I look at who can teach me certain things. I'm sure the lessons are out there, but as far as inspiration, I look to the great thinkers. I look towards people who've written science fiction novels that completely destroy my way of thinking. I don't find that in rap. You might find that in terms of delivery and someone may have a distinct style like an MF Doom or a Spanfly, which are great artists in their own right. But we talk about it. Me and Tombstone talk about it. It's like we're chasing Stan Lee as rappers. Like we're chasing Jack Kirby as rappers, and it's not the same as trying to chase a Biggie or a Tupac. Not to say that those guys aren't great in their own right, and I'm not trying to disrespect their legacy, but what I think we're trying to achieve is so much more vast and so much more grand than even I think they could have impacted just with their music. So influences, like I said, I think some of the great thinkers, inspirations and stuff like that have to come from those I believe who have a greater mental capacity, than you do, and that's who I look towards.
That's cool. So you take a lot of inspiration from more like the intellectual side of it. So I mean, as far as okay, so you might not necessarily take inspiration from other rappers per se, but how about other musicians or artists that you listen to? Maybe you don't incorporate their style maybe into your music, but are there other artists out there, whether they are secular or maybe they don't incorporate such things into their music that you enjoy listening to?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of people I like. I mean, obviously I'm biased towards my own crew because I like listening to Grand Unified stuff as well. But even outside of that, I listen to a lot of like MF Doom. I listen to a lot of Spanfly, Young Z, Outsiders and stuff like that. I like to listen to people who are really true to rhyming and really true to the old school golden age of hip hop, which was wordplay, metaphors, trying to write and rap about concepts that no one else had come up with, trying to be unique, individualistic. Not being a biter was a big thing. In our day, sounding like somebody else was an absolute no-no. It was the one cardinal sin that you couldn't do. You couldn't sound like anybody else. And now, today in hip-hop and in music in general, it's not only, not a crime, but it's almost encouraged to be like other people in whatever genre that you're in. And I've always made it a point, and I know people around me like Tombstone have always made it a point to be in our own lane and to carve our own lane and do our own thing. Love me or hate me, you're going to love me or hate me for being me. You're not going to love me or hate me for pretending to be somebody else. And there's a lot of people out there who are willing to accept that. They're willing to accept people loving them for something that they pretend to be, because at the end of the day, it's all about money. And if your integrity has a price tag like that, then that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm not going to cast any moral aspersion on that, but mine doesn't when it comes to music. It just doesn't. And I know for some people that doesn't work. I know for some people that doesn't make any sense. It's not logical, but for me it does, because in following the music in the purest way that I can, it has yielded certain fruits, like being on this interview right now and being able to spread my message to anybody who listens, and to be able to live off my music and not have to compromise or capitulate based on what people think I should do.
No, it's very cool. Definitely respectable. I can appreciate that. I mean, I'm not a music artist or anything like that, but I can understand. I have a YouTube channel. I kind of do this, and like, I don't want to sell out. I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna be me, and if people don't like it, whatever, I don't. So I can understand how you want to just, do your thing. You don't want to, try to be like anybody else. You don't want to try to sell out, and you want to stay true to yourself, and that's definitely respectable for sure. Regardless of the outcome, whether or not you become more or less popular or whatever the case may be, you're just gonna go where it takes you. So that's very cool. So Tombstone, I kind of want to ask you the same question. Do you have any artists that inspire you, your music, or where you draw inspiration from, or do you kind of echo Greydon's sentiments?
Well, when I was younger, yeah, I was influenced by a lot of different artists. As a matter of fact, it was, I think, like KRS-One that showed me through what the music he did, that you can take this and talk about more than just your tennis shoes. You know what I'm saying? Like, he inspired me. Public Enemy inspired me as I was growing up. But like, kind of like what Greydon's saying, these days I don't really have anybody else in my lane, so I can't really take too much inspiration from them, because, to be quite honest, they're not, if you listen to the average mainstream radio station, just that, you'll see they're not talking about anything that I'm talking about or Greydon's talking about at all. And even in the underground, you don't find a lot of them talking about what we're talking about. But as far as stylistically and what I enjoy listening to, I like Pharoah Monch. It's just, I like guys that, like Greydon said, are lyrical and actually can paint pictures with words that can make you see something just with their verbiage and their flows and their little different deliveries. But when it comes to my content, to be honest, I get more inspired by my fellow GU members like Adequate and Greydon than I do a lot of the people that are put in our face as the people that we're supposed to look at as the celebrated ones, the celebrity rappers. I'm not really inspired by them talking about popping bottles. I'm not really that inspired by them talking about being in the strip club. That's boring as fuck to me. You know what I'm saying? So, not really with them. But yeah, as far as things that I enjoy listening to, absolutely. There are artists out there that I think are really good. I like the projects they've done. They may don't get a lot of credit. Most of the artists that I listen to now are pretty much underground, like Evil, people like that. Like, I'll listen to his stuff before I listen to any of the mainstream stuff.
Evil is pretty dope. In fact, to piggyback off of what Tombstone says, there are very competent and gifted MCs out there who are trying to push the envelope. I don't want to take away and act like there are people out there trying to do unique things. The problem is, like he said, we deal with the culture of the celebrated ones. And these are people who have been kind of, I believe, manufactured would be the best word for it. They're manufactured artists, and it's a manufactured fan base, and the fan base is easy to manipulate because they've now honed it to a certain formula to where they understand how they can most efficiently get the money that they want out of you. Essentially, they just want you to pull out your phone and buy what they're telling you to buy when they tell you to buy it. And they now have worked that out to where, the people that they push towards you, you'll do that for them. And I don't know, man. I mean, yes, are there people out there, trying to do some different things? I'm sure there are. But if there were people out there talking about what we were talking about, they'd be on this podcast, not us.
And a lot of that, I call a lot of that music, like Greydon's talking about, it's conveyor belt music. It's the type of stuff that you would put in a factory, and a factory makes widgets, and they make widgets all to the same dimension and the same size and same material, and they run it down a conveyor belt, and it gets out there, and people are basically buying the same product over and over and over and over again. It's just not something I'm interested in. I don't want my catalog of music to contain things that I'm not proud of. I don't want my catalog of music to contain things or have sentiments that I, at least at the moment, did not actually subscribe to. So that does, to some people, they would say that limits me, but I don't see how it could possibly, because while they're sitting there talking about, the brand new car that they just bought, I'm talking about stars. I'm talking about the entropic forces of the universe. I'm talking about all of these different things, and they're still stuck on Earth. So I prefer my content over theirs.
And just even consider the fact that in the context of how we've even done that, the fact that Tombstone has taken the very concept of entropy, and I've taken the very concept of extropy, and we've created these entities, and we've created these subcultures within this greater culture of intellectuals who just want their creativity and the creativity that they process to stimulate them on that level. And that's one of the things that Grand Unified, I believe, does better than anybody else. We stimulate intellectually. We always have. And we do that with our creativity because we understand that most people, either they're not willing to, they don't want to, they're not capable, or whatever. But there's a reason why we're the ones most known for intellectual content in the form of, popular music. And I don't think that's an accident. I think it has a lot to do with what we value and what we think humanity should value and doesn't.
Yeah, and I can kind of take and draw in a lot of this, maybe being an artist myself. And I was definitely going to ask you guys, because, I was asked by a couple people that have been loyal subscribers of my music, oh, now that you came out as an atheist, are you going to make atheist music now? I want to hear your atheist song. And I'm like, that's not how it works, Whatever comes out is what's going to come out. It most likely will be the things that I'm surrounding myself with. But you just don't force it like that. So I was going to ask you guys, what do you say to someone like me? Tell me more about the transition, because I know you just didn't become an atheist and you're like, I'm gonna go make an atheist song now. That's not what happened. So kind of tell me more about that.
So you want this one first? Or you want me to take it?
Sure. Yeah. It's organic. That's the best word I could use to describe it. It's organic. It's the type of thing where most artists, especially artists that are really doing this, not so much because they think it's a lottery ticket that's going to lead them to this great, rich, wealthy, whatever. They're doing it because they actually have a need to create. And you pull from the things, from your life experiences, you pull from what you're going through right now, your opinions, whatever. Any artist will pull from those things. So even if you don't feel like doing that right now, the time might come when you hear a beat and go, dude, I totally want to talk about this to this beat. Completely organic. And the people that accept what you're talking about, see, because what happens is humans like to categorize things. So yeah, you're going to have some people who may first hear you and hear your music that will say, oh, he's an atheist rapper. Because they want to put you in a box. That's how people will try to categorize stuff. Don't let them put you in that box. You are an artist expressing a certain viewpoint that you are actually feeling at that time. So if, now that, you've come out as an atheist, and you say you have like people that have respected your music who think that, oh, so now are you going to, maybe not. It depends on how you feel creatively at the time. You never should be a slave to any theme, topic, or whatever. The only slave that I am to any type of theme is the theme of progressing forward, making my sound better, getting my rhymes better, the concepts of my songs being more advanced, and being proud of the product that I actually put out there and I give to the people. And I can honestly tell you that there's a lot of artists out there that say that they just want people to respect them for their music and not all of that other frivolous stuff like what kind of clothes you wore, what kind of a car you drive, what kind of jewelry you got on. I was fortunate enough to be able to find an audience like that. So there's no way I'm going to put myself in a box musically or creatively, and you shouldn't either. You definitely shouldn't.
Yeah, what I would say to that is, and I mean, I guess it's kind of an asshole response, but I would tell that person, whoever asked you that, whatever music I make, whether it's about atheism or not, expect it to be good. At the end of the day, it won't matter if you're talking about atheism or if you're not talking about atheism if you suck as a musician. No one will want to hear you anyway. So I would say, I would recommend the same thing that I would recommend to any person out there, which is increase your value as a musician, increase your capabilities, so that when if you decide to write a song about your non-belief or your skepticism, you can do it in a way that's entertaining. You can do it in a way that is not harsh on the ear. We know terrible atheist rappers. Okay? And the reason why they're not on this podcast and we are is because we're really good at what we do. And that's not, being a dick about it, but that's part of the reason why we're here, is because there are times where other people want us to go out and we're still in here working on rhymes. We're still in here working on songs. People want us to do different things and wonder why hey man, how come you're not responding to my text message? It's like, 'cause I'm in here writing the greatest album I could possibly write and you're fucking it up. But
that is so true.
It's not one of those things where you start neglecting the quality of your music, whatever you write about. You have to make sure that it's good music, and then everything else will kind of settle itself. If you're a creative person, we didn't get known, I think, as atheist rappers because we were atheist rappers. We got known because we created a community. We created a culture known as Grand Unified, and GU was that culture that caught on, that people identified themselves with, so that when other quote-unquote atheist rappers came out, it's like other people were like, nah. They may be rappers who may say a little things about atheism, but they aren't the ones that we associate with that type of hip-hop. That's kind of an honor, because we've earned that. We've at least earned that staying power, where our names are staples. We've contributed something to hip-hop that wasn't there before, at the end of the day. And that alone, we've done our job when it comes to our contribution to the culture of hip-hop, which is really all it's about. But yeah, as far as what you should tell that person, what type of music you'll make, just tell them it'll be good. Wait on it.
Well, personally, I think it was kind of interesting because I've been an atheist for about almost 3 years now. And in that time where I was just full on, activism, I've only released one project. And what I was afraid of, I mean, if I know listening to it, I can hear a lot of non-religious undertones in there. So it is, becoming prevalent. As you mentioned before, you use what's around you. You use what you're thinking about at the time, and that's what really comes out when you create music. I personally was a little bit afraid of starting over. Because, I mean, it's like you said, you didn't really have a fan base when you started, so when you actually started making atheist music, you were creating something new. For me, I guess that's what the fear has been, because I do receive a substantial amount of income from my music, the way it is. And, at a point you get comfortable with that. You're like, okay, if I'm making $750, $1,000 a month off of music, like that's ideal, coming from making nothing from it, that's pretty ideal. And I guess that was the thing for me, is like, if I do this, am I gonna like lose everybody? And I know that you can't be so superfluous like that you just worried about what people think about you. But you do get accustomed, like in my situation, like I'm accustomed to that monthly income now, so I'm like, yeah, do I really want to sacrifice that?
No, I mean, I understand your point, and I do get that, because I think that's kind of very human. But again, like I said, it depends on your fan base, because I'm at the point where anything I rhyme about, my fans are going to accept that from me because they know me. A lot of times, especially in this new culture, the new digital culture, it isn't just about you being a musician or artist. It's your overall package. It's how you present yourself to that audience. Explore and talk about different stuff and blah, blah, blah. My fan base will accept that. And my money doesn't change every month. It's the same thing. So I think do it only if you want to do it. Like if you're really feeling it, do it anyway. You know what I'm saying? But never let any monetary concerns handicap you from talking about something if you really want to talk about it. And don't let anybody pressure you into talking about something you don't want to talk about.
Well, one of the things that
I'm sorry, go ahead.
One of the things that you notice, I'm pretty sure you do, like for example, when I first was introduced to Gray's music, you can tell by listening to it, like, okay, this is not just a regular dude. Like, he knows some shit. He's talking about physics-related topics here, which is actually, you mentioned that in the beginning, but I was going to ask you, like, talking about cosmology and stuff like this. I was going to say that you really can hear that in the music, and there are some artists out there that you know, they may be trapped in that box that Tombstone is talking about, and there's some artists that you can hear, you're like, okay, he may be onto something, but maybe he is trapped in this box, and if he makes that sacrifice to really express who he truly is, will things change so drastically, you know? I mean, just think about something as simple as like a mainstream rapper like Lil Wayne, for example, who released a rock album, and like, you know, that was a complete and utter failure for him, and that I mean, that's a terrible example, but it's kind of like that.
Was it completely terrible? I don't remember him releasing. I mean, I'm not a Lil Wayne fan, so I don't follow him, but was it really that terrible?
Personally, I thought it was his best work, but in the community, they said it was his worst work. So.
Oh shit. Well, I have an old saying, and obviously this is relative because some people have different money situations and stuff. But I always say I'd rather make $100 doing something I love than $1,000 doing something I hate. And you know, you can decide on what's worth it and what is, you know, if you're willing to risk certain things based on sticking to something that you traditionally or that you really identify with and that you really believe in. If you take some sort of a hit in your fan base because of it, then chances are you probably didn't want those fans, you know, long term anyway. Because I mean, you're looking for long term support. You're not looking for just fleeting fans because they're here because they like the last hot single that you did. I mean, I guess you do, but that's not what I want. I almost like the subscriber fan base idea where it's like fans are almost subscribing to you and they're investing in every project to keep you working, not necessarily because they're buying your single or they're buying your album. Because they can download your record anywhere, you know. It doesn't take much on the day your album comes out for them to go to whatever torrent site that they like and just download it. But there has to be a reason for them to actually say, I'm going to go on my phone, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to go, you know, on this website, I'm going to order the CD, because they have to feel like they identify with that person and that person's culture enough to where it's like, I'm willing to take $15, $20, $25 and identify and buy into this idea.
That's exactly it. Like you said, nowadays people don't have to buy your music, especially if you already have a substantial fan base. Trust and believe somebody has your content on a torrent somewhere. You know, so the reason that you're able to survive every month and get money every month from your music is because people have bought into you as an artist. Not necessarily, it's not about that one song you did or that one album you did. It's about the fact that they want to keep you working. They support you enough, and they have bought. It's kind of like in professional wrestling. One of the terms that they use when a wrestler has completely won over the crowd is he's over with the crowd. He's over. That's how it is with this music thing now. If you're over with your audience, they fucking love you. And you would have to do something seriously messed up to change that And it's not about an album here or a song there. It's about overall. You have to turn into a real dickhead for them to no longer want to support you.
Yeah, and you have to release like consistently bad work. I mean, I know people who follow bands and artists where it's like, I didn't like his last 3 albums, but I bought them anyway. It's like, really? You bought 3 bad albums? I mean, hey, there are people out there who really support the people like that. I just don't ever assume that if I release one bad project, that the person's still going to be around the next time. So I always try to make sure that each project is worth investing in, so that they when they hear about the next project that I'm doing, it's almost assumed it's like, well, that last album was better than the one before that, so I have to buy it. Release is quality of music, man. I believe that if your music is good, it doesn't really matter what you're talking about. People will buy it.
Yeah, so personally for myself, I wanted to ask you guys these questions, just because there may be somebody that watches this and may be in a similar situation. But personally, I've actually already made the decision to express myself musically. I have done it already. Actually, one of the guys who's not here tonight, the Godless Engineer, I don't know if you're familiar with him. I did an intro song for his channel. And there are a couple other things that I have my hands invested in right now. But I'm really thankful that people like Greydon and Tombstone have kind of sort of pioneered into the rap community and made it available for other people. Because honestly, at the end of the day, what it's about is getting your thoughts out. For me, getting your thoughts out and someone else valuing your creativity. I love the money. The money is good. If it would be, a couple extra zeros on the end, I'd be real happy. But valuing the creativity and actually being able to do what you want to do and not have someone dangle in front of you what they want you to be is, for me, what it's all about. So I've actually made the decision to, I guess if you really need to state that you made a decision, I just made a decision to express myself in music. There you go.
Yeah, very cool. And I just want to bring up too, I think is relevant. I'm not sure. My background in as far as music that I grew up with and that I enjoy the most is like punk rock. So some of the bands that I grew up listening to are like Pennywise and Bad Religion. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with them at all, and I'll just give you a little sampling of some of their lyrics. So, for example, Pennywise has a song called "We'll Never Know," and part of the song goes, "The star cross and the crescent sign, the reason that we pray at night. When you lose your nerve, you know that you got to serve someone, a prophet or a sacred cow. You know it doesn't matter now. Pick one of the above. It's better than bowing to no one." And then Bad Religion, for example, they have a song called "The World Won't Stop Without You." And one of the lines, or part of the song goes, "You're only as elegant as your actions let you be, a piece of chaos related phylogenetically to every living organ system, their siblings don't you see? The world rotates and will revolve without you constantly. 2 billion years this far, now Mister, here you are, an element in a sea of anthropic organic compounds. The world won't stop without you." So, I mean, that's, along the lines of scientific and, really heavy philosophical stuff that you just don't typically see in any music. I think punk rock has seen a lot of that kind of stuff, but what you guys are doing is, like A-List was saying, pioneering that kind of thinking into rap and hip hop, and that's really awesome because, that's a genre that doesn't really see a lot of that. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with those kind of bands at all, but do you guys have any lyrics of your own or any songs that you think are kind of your favorite or that you would recommend people check out first if they're looking to get into your music?
Stone?
Oh yeah, man. Most people, I think our most popular songs have been Ballad of the Non-Believer, Poison, and stuff like that. But if you really want to actually get into my head and find out what I am as an artist, I would say the song off my new album, Cosmic. That's definitely one where you really want to get into my head and see what I'm about as an artist. It's that song, and it's the other one, Millions of People. and on my Entropic Man album, the song All Things Must Pass. Those songs, I feel, they capture the inner me and the things that I think about. Um, and of course, some of them have an atheistic bent, but kind of most do not. Like the song Cosmic, I passively mention something about indoctrination and how I'm sick of it and I don't really want to, like, so much stuff going here on this planet that sometimes I feel like I don't even want to be here. In the song All Things Pass, I basically I become the incarnation of entropy. And I say, it's been about 13 billion years or so. I wonder where the years have flown. I've been a part of it all and even witnessed the expansion grow. I've seen the laws of physics sort out themselves. I've seen stars and planets form from out of gravity wells, even galaxies colliding with others in cataclysmic wonder. I cause destruction on levels too high to have a number. Part of reality's fabric, attached to it like a magnet. I'm not a villain. There's no reason to panic. And I'm basically, like I said in that song, I'm becoming the incarnation of entropy and the things that cause everything to rot, fall apart, and just die. Because at the end of the day, thanks. But at the end of the day, that song, I feel, and the other ones that I mentioned, they really like capture me as an artist.
I as far as where people should, I guess, introduce themselves into my catalog, I think it has a lot to do with where they are um, in their journey of skepticism. If you're coming to terms with your atheism and deprogramming yourself from being indoctrinated from a specific religion or one or the other, then yeah, it's a good place to start with the Compton effect and the CBT theorem. Maybe a little type 1, but if a lot of people who are into um, transhumanism and humanism and singularity concepts and stuff may discover my stuff and go towards type 1, the Kardashev scale, because I talk a lot about that. And then I get into really crazy fractal concepts on type 2, and that's kind of a different way of thinking altogether. So I mean, it really depends on where you are in your thinking. If I'm not saying that a person shouldn't start from the beginning and just work their way forward, because that'd be a good way to see my progression as creative. But I would say it's probably best to listen based on where you are, and that varies.
I'm gonna go ahead and say this. What about that feature though?
What feature? What are you talking about?
From y'all know I gotta get that feature. You can't just come
Oh,
on my show and I can't get
oh, a
it.
feature? We talking about like I'm so that I understand what you're actually talking about. You're talking about being me
Like a
featuring like a
song.
record? Oh, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure we can
Yeah.
work something out. I'm always trying to be
Yeah.
creative. I'm always trying to be musical. So, if the project's right, I'm definitely down.
Same here. If the project's right, if it's something that I can wrap my head around and nod my head to and inspires me to write, I'm down.
Challenge accepted. All right, we usually do new science this week at the beginning of the show, and we usually do a hypocrite of the week at the end of the show. But we really wanted to, really get to talk to you guys and get the feel for where you are and what's going on with your music. So we're gonna forego all of that, and we just basically want you to, advertise a little bit now. We're happy that you came on to the show with us. Unless Brennan has something else, I want you guys to go ahead and plug your most recent stuff. I already heard it because I have Spotify, and as soon as I saw your name, I was like, let me go see what it's about. So I've already been listening. But for those people that don't know yet, go ahead and lay it down for them.
Yeah, I'd just like to have them go ahead and give us, all the pertinent information on their, their albums, the Grand Unified, the Rational, or the Reaper Nation. Just give us a download on all that stuff. Where's the best place to find you guys, find your music, all that good stuff.
You can go ahead, Greg.
Sorry about that, having trouble on mute. I would say the best place to find my music, obviously I have a website, graydonsquare.net, which is kind of a portal for all of my stuff. But, you can find all of my work on iTunes, Amazon, Spotify. The best place to follow me for new information would be Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I post a lot to those three mediums. And really, I'm working on a new album right now. Great pass. I'm working on a new album right now called Type 3 Omniverse. It should be out in the fall, barring anything crazy, cataclysmic. It's another in a series of albums that I'm doing about future technology and future races and alien races and stuff like that. But yeah, you can follow me and get updates about that. Anytime you want to send me a message on any one of those mediums, and normally I respond if I'm not too busy. But I make it a point to respond to everybody. So yeah, that's about it, Tombstone.
Yeah, man. It's several things. First, if you want to find my music, you can find it pretty much everywhere: iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Spotify, as well as Bandcamp. To find out updates about the new content and things that I'm doing, if you follow the Rational Warrior YouTube channel, you'll get to see a lot of my video content. On Facebook, you can look up Tombstone, the Deadman. That's my artist page. On Instagram, it's Tombstone969. I'm definitely building that page up more, and you'll find a lot of my other interests on there other than music. You'll find a lot of comic book stuff, video game stuff, and things of that nature. And of course, the website that's really the hub of the entire Reaper Nation culture is reapernation.com. And on there, you'll find articles about science, video game reviews, things about comic books, you name it. And of course, you can find my music and merchandise also on that exact same site. And I did want to talk about the comic book that Greydon and I are coming out with. We're going to have a crowdfunding campaign, because it's also going to be an app and a music soundtrack to the comic book. It's called Extropy and Entropy: The Celestial Wars. We have a couple of great artists attached to it: Joseph Arnold, the colorist Gabriel Sandoval. The stuff looks really good. We're gonna have a lot of nice perks for people to help us fund the project, and we're really excited about it. This is not a vanity project like a lot of artists have, where they try to do a comic book or something like that just to stroke their ego. No, we're every bit as much into the comic book thing as we are into the music thing, and I think people are really going to enjoy it. So just check us out.
I totally forgot about the comic book as far as talking about it, but yeah, man, that's one of the best projects I've ever been a part of, because it kind of goes outside the bounds of just music, simple music. We're writing a musical companion album to a story that we've also been authoring, that's going to be expressed in the form of a comic book, and that's a lot of moving parts. And so we're essentially trying to write a story that's engaging, that's deep, that's complex. It's not black and white. I feel like in this project have been, I kind of recognize my influences when it comes to sci-fi and how I write science fiction, based on what I was influenced by growing up. And you kind of see it in the work that we do. So I hope that when we do finally get around to the crowdfunding campaign, that people will like what's being done, because at the end of the day, it's great art. The artist, Joseph Arnold, the third man of our team, he's kind of our eyes on the project. He's really bringing a lot of these characters to life and really making them jump off the page. We're just excited. I'm just really excited to be a part of a project that I never thought would see the light of day. There was one time that this was just an idea, and now it's we're getting ready to wrap up our first issue and start on our second. So.
And we always wanted to do this, like, forever. Yep. Dude, you guys have no idea how excited we are about this project. We have always wanted to do a comic book. We just didn't have the right artists. The stories that we had previously worked on, the prototypes, had a lot of holes in it we needed to fix, and it was just a whole bunch of obstacles to get to where we are now in the development of it. And man, like I said, I'm as excited about this as any album that I've ever done. Speaking of which, I'll be releasing my 6th album called The Sixth Extinction. That'll be released on my usual Halloween release date. So I just wanted to put that out there.
It's funny because I just found out about that album right now.
Well, you heard it here first.
And you'll be on it. That's what's funny.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I did hear it here first. I mean, it's pretty accurate.
All right, well, we thank you guys so much for coming on to the show, and we especially thank you, as I said before, for being pioneers in the hip-hop rap community, being ideal role models for people, and promoting skepticism, because it's more than, like Tombstone said, it's more than just not believing in a God. It's teaching people how to think critically, think rationally, and to get outside of that box that they seem to want to always put us in. And so we thank you guys for coming on and speaking on these things tonight. And maybe you'll come to another show, or maybe you'll actually get to see our New Science This Week and Hypocrite of the Week segments, because those are pretty good.
Fantastic. Yeah, we'll definitely check them out. And we're probably going to be rebooting our podcast as well. We had a podcast back in the day that we definitely want to do to reboot. So stay tuned for that as well.
Yeah,
and we appreciate you guys having us.
We really appreciate it, man. And just before we leave, I wanted to also bring attention to another podcast I'm working on with another GU member, Adequate, called the Rock With Us podcast. So expect a lot of content from GU in the future.
All right, guys. Special shout out to Greydon and Tombstone. Don't forget to go check out all of their links. Make sure you subscribe to the Rational Warrior channel. If you got Spotify, they're on there. I've been jamming it, so it's pretty good. I give it the thumbs up. Make sure you guys check it out. And don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check out the Prototype Atheist, who recently got to 1,000 subs on YouTube. But we can't stop now. We gotta get it. We gotta keep it going. We gotta get 2,000 now. And Dieter and Godless Engineer were not here tonight because they were at the Atheist conference. So expect that we may be talking about some of those things that happened at the conference next weekend. And as always, we thank you guys for watching.